by the sound of a buzzing train. Oh, I'm a little high there. How about now? I got not a new tripod, I'm just using a different one. But, oh, I see myself. Alright, well, hello everybody and welcome back to Ours Trains. My name's Corey and in today's video, it's not a Sunday Run Day. The stream is not titled Sunday Run Day. Today's stream, we're marking a very important occasion. I guess the four behind me is kind of alluding to it, but today we're celebrating 4,000 subscribers. Actually, 4,060 subscribers by the way it looks. So, yeah, we'll give people a minute to get in here. I'm going to take a swig of water because this is going to be a kind of long stream. Today's stream, we're tackling a subject that I've always wanted to do. And this was supposed to be the subject, since, 500 subscribers. I've been wanting to do the story of Ours Trains for such a long time, and I've never really gotten around to making that, as you guys know. I've always wanted to do because everyone always asks me, what's Ours Trains mean? Because my name is Corey, and, the first letter of my name, nor my last name, begins with R. What's the R stand for? So I thought we'd tell the whole story here as well as celebrate 4K. And around the entire layout today, I guess we call it you could say sure Heritage Railway, but we got the museum layout together today. We got a bunch of important locomotives scattered all around the layout. We're going to be running the bottom levels here, but the upper level and the yard over there is storing some very important locomotives in the Ours Train story. So, anyways, hello to everyone swinging in here tonight. We already got a lot of people swinging in, and it'd take me ages, as you know, to call out everybody here, but just a few people that I saw who stepped right in the door. We got LGR, we got Shadow Lines, we got Paul, we got CSX, CS44, we got my boy Carter Trainstorm, we got Mr. Shades Trains, we got Davon, we got Railfan Roger, we got, Randall, we got Rose Jewel, we got Wiped Incident, we got Drunken Pug, we got Joe, DNH2906, I think we got Andrew, Iron Horse Productions, and so forth, and we got Rail Chief 74, Mike. So yeah, we got Rolling Force. Okay, so we got a lot of people swinging, and I think that's the fastest I've ever did little call-outs. And as you know, I'm not using StreamYard anymore, so I can't make the little things pop up on the bottom there. But anyways, I think we're about ready to start this very important stream here. I'm going to take a quick drink of water, then let's get going. I'm going to need to be doing a lot of fuel up pit stops, whatever you'd like to say, because we're going to be here for a while. It's not too easy to tell the Ours Train story, as a matter of fact, but the story itself of Ours Trains and the whole YouTube channel here doesn't begin with me. And it doesn't begin really with my dad either. It begins with my grandpa. And just a quick note before we even start, no one in the family was ever really into trains. We didn't, to my knowledge, there was never any relatives who worked for the railroad, at least not now. I know at least a cousin who works for the train now, but obviously that doesn't count. But during my grandfather's age and stuff, I don't think there wait, I gotta read Carter's announcement real quick. But no one in the family worked for trains, and to my knowledge we didn't have any really train history. But Carter has the announcements, as you can call, so pretend it's like station announcements or something. Greetings all, welcome to the Ours Trains 4K subscriber stream. As you watch the stream, you are more than welcome to chat, but please be sure to follow all chat rules. No spam, swearing, etc. Thank you, and have a great day. We have fun here. What can I say? We got that we even got Bob behind me. We got that classic Ours Trains energy tonight. But anyways, the story doesn't start with me. It starts with my grandfather, Robert Ward. That's little me right there, and that's Grampy right there, as it says. What does it say on the frame? Me and Grandpa, but I always call Grandpa Grampy. That was funny. Oh, geez, I'm gonna get really sidetracked. But Grampy, I can't remember what Grampy wanted me to call him, but I just slurred the thing together like, Grampy, and that's what it became. So Grampy's gonna be Grampy, but My grandfather, Robert Ward, was born in 1926 in a little town called Hope, Arkansas. Well, Hope is a little bigger today, and Hope is most known for, I think, Bill Clinton. That was Bill Clinton, President Clinton's hometown. So, anyways, Grampy was before Bill Clinton. So, Grampy was born in a little town called Hope in Arkansas, and the family, well, as you know, 1920s and stuff, everything's all fine and dandy, but growing up as a kid, Grampy spent most of his time in the Great Depression during all of the 30s. And fun fact, actually, that Grampy, he loved to tell me his stories, and I remember one day really well when him and I just sat down and chatted, but a lot of his occupation back then at the time, he really liked trains, but a lot of his things kind of leaned more towards, being the news. He was the newsboy on the bike who would go around and deliver the papers, but at an early age he really got into photography. And you think that, oh, photography might have something to do with trains, but no, I don't think Grampy ever took a picture of a train, and I'm so sad that he never did, because he lived through all the cool eras of trains. He saw, like, steam in the 30s, the 40s. So he would have saw the diesel age and the golden age of passenger rail or whatever. But anyways, I digress. Anyways, Grampy grew up right by one of the diamonds in Hope, Arkansas. And the other thing is that they moved around a little bit. They weren't in Hope the entire time. I believe they went from Hope to Little Rock, then to another place after that, and then back to Hope, I believe. But I know Grampy. When I think of Grampy, I think of him and being in Hope. A lot of the family story comes from there. But anyways, Grampy grew up right next to the tracks there. They had a pretty nice house, actually, and the tracks right in front of his house, like if I was to show you my backyard, right? Like, oh wow, a backyard. But anyways, right by where that tree line is kind of where the tracks were. They had a little front lawn, they had a street, and then the tracks street ran right in front of his house, I believe. So Grampy would have been, seeing all the cool stuff, because there was a double track main line, kind of like this, and then that street he grew up on cut right through the double track main line like that. So he would have heard all the regular mainline trains going by, and he also would have remembered that little short line going by too. And I could just imagine, him coming back after school, and sitting on the little curb waiting for the train to go by. How cool that would have been. Oh, I remember actually. So another thing that gives me this knowledge, because Grampy's no longer around, he passed away in 2017, but is Grampy wrote an autobiography. So he doesn't have many train stories in there, but he does remember, how we'd sit on the curb there and how the engineers and the guys in the caboose would wave. That's so cool. I can picture it in my head, that big, long, dirty freight train heading through dusty Arkansas, that probably an Atlantic or something. I don't know what that little short line was that would have ran through there, but they would have had a small power. They would have had a few mixed cars. I could imagine the dusty old wooden caboose, but anyways, as Grampy got older and older, actually, if Aunt Linda, my aunt, knows so much about the family history, but I can't remember when my great-grandfather, my grandfather's grandfather, started the drugstore. But anyways, Grampy's father owned a drugstore, and that's kind of the way the family made their income, to my knowledge. But as you know, being born in 1926, something would come about 20 years later-ish, a little less than 20 years, that pretty much everyone would be involved with, and that was World War II. Now, my grandfather, and that's another thing I love too, I wish I could have heard more of his war stories, because I'm like addicted to him. There's so much fun to hear, because I just picture myself, I picture him, just describing the stories and what it would have been like. But anyways, I almost said World War One there. It's been a long day. World War Two called, and Grampy, just like everyone else, wanted to do something in the war effort. He initially started with all the other kids, in town. They would collect scrap, and they would, the army would come around, I think, like every week or something, and the army would pick up the scrap, like the Victory Gardens and stuff, try to find small ways to be involved. But eventually, Grampy joined the army. I can't remember what year. I think it may have been like 44 or something like that. And he went off to camp. I believe he was stationed in Texas or what have you. And a lot of his time, he never saw combat in World War II. He actually took, like I mentioned earlier, photography. He became a army photographer. But, he had to go through basic training. And, if uh, Uncle Sam did call, then yeah, he would have been deployed, whether in Europe or if the invasion of Japan were to happen, because we weren't supposed to originally bomb Japan. It was going to be a huge Allied invasion of Japan. Then he might have got called over to that, and luckily that didn't happen. But he would remember, being in camp and stuff, and a lot of the guys in the other, barracks and stuff would get called over to seize, and he remembered a lot of his colleagues, dying in D-Day and stuff like that, or like, kids you'd see one week or whatever, then the next week you hear they got killed in action or something like that. So I can imagine it was probably a really scary time because you didn't know what was gonna happen. It's not like everyone in the U.S. or UK, whatever, like, oh yeah, we got a bomb that we're gonna use to end the war. A lot of those guys thought, yeah, the war's probably gonna go on another few years or something like that. So yeah, Grampy kind of lived in, I don't know, some fearful times, and so did my grandma, too. She was also a nurse, I believe, at the time as well, although I might be a little fuzzy on that because this is about ours trains, not Nana's trains. All right, you get the idea. But anyways, World War II eventually did end, and I could go on and on about Grampy's stories, but, we got to try to keep it train-related at most. But, yeah, anyways, World War II ended, and Grampy went back home, and from there, things would carry on, and then after that was Korea, and then my grandma and grandpa got involved again. Instead of like, okay, yeah, we did our time during World War II, like, no, let's do something more. So I went off to Korea. Nana served as a nurse. They were both stationed in Japan, actually. So no like in Korea combat or anything, but. My grandma was a nurse at Japan, and I can't remember if Grampy was administering a hospital, like, running it, if he was learning how to do it, but both were involved in, the hospital stuff. And some of Nana's stories and stuff would be seeing all the troops that would come back with frostbite and stuff. She described it very well and stuff, like seeing the hospital or the little ambulance jeeps pull up and just dozens and dozens of soldiers getting up and them coming back and coming back 30 minutes later and again, like, and again and again and again. There was like so many, I guess, casualties and stuff. But anyways, they had a little tiny house, I believe. I can't remember if it was rent or whatever, but they had a little house in Japan, and there was like a little tramway that would run up and down to their little house from like there to the hospital in Japan, and they loved their time in Japan. They said the Japanese people were some of the nicest, most civilized, cultured people they had ever met, and Grampy, I can't remember if they later went to Japan or if the photos that we have are from his original visit to Japan, which I believe some of them are. So, like, but you can see the beautiful architecture and stuff and all the pretty, like, gardens and things. But they really enjoyed their time in Japan. And when they came back home, they decided to settle in, I think, Dad, if you're in chat, famous Robert Edward, do you know if they were originally going to settle, was it Syracuse or Rochester or something, or Utica? Because after they got home, Grampy had gained enough experience to run an actual hospital, and I believe there was a little place out in either Syracuse or Rochester or whatever that was looking to hire him, and I can't remember if they were out there for a year or not, or something like that, but there was a hospital that had been around for a few years in Schenectady, New York. Now, a lot of you guys, you might know Schenectady for obvious reasons, like well, you can't see GE building, but Bob is back there. But General Electric, that being their big spot, as well as Alco, the Alco Schenectady Works. That is, I think, their most biggest and most famous and well-known's work there. So, the American Locomotive Company. So Alco, especially back in the 50s when they moved into Schenectady, Alco, GE Schenectady was a booming place, That was, if you wanted to get a job, that was probably the place to be. Because then, on top of that, you had so many other big things, like, you had the New York Central Railroad going through there. You had the Delaware and Hudson going through there. There were just several other industrial jobs and stuff like that. So, Schenectady was a very big city. And anyways, a little hospital called Sunnyview Hospital, somehow, I don't know how, but they got wind of my grandfather, and they, not Godfather style, they gave him an offer he couldn't refuse, but They gave him a great offer that was more than I think his current job out in somewhere in central upstate New York. So, yeah, Nana and Grampy moved over to Schenectady, where they eventually settled just in Niskayuna. They had bought a house, and I think it was in 1957. And by then, my aunt, my dad, and my uncle. I can't remember if Uncle John was. He was born, I think, a year after that. But, anyways, things were now kind of, settling down more to a stable routine just about. Grampy wasn't a photographer, main time anymore. Now he was like, what was it? CFO, I think. Not CEO, but CFO of Sunnyview. And Nana worked a few years at Sunnyview Hospital, and then she moved on at Bellevue Hospital. But anyways, Grampy spent a lot of his time doing that. And, running a hospital is a very tasking job. And Grampy was a part of a big growth campaign. And I'm really sad that the hospital, he isn't really remembered there or anything. There's a few coworkers who eventually we run into, like, oh, I remember Robert, he was such a great guy. But, there's like no name plaques or anything. And he did a lot, especially during the polio days in the mid-50s, they're trying to build rehabilitation centers for kids and stuff. So, anyways, Grampy did a lot of stuff at Sunnyview, and he was very busy. But he did have two big things, well, maybe three. I'm sure a lot more that Aunt Linda could talk about. But he had a lot of pastimes, and two of his big favorite pastimes were trains, and number two, golf. Dad didn't get the train bit, but he did get the golf bit. Oh, here we go. Dad says he was president at Sunnyview Hospital. Yeah, okay, president. Well, isn't CFO technically president or something? I can't remember. I don't know my positions too well, but Grampy got hooked on Lionel trains. Now, we'll show it a little later, but I believe Grampy got started in Lionel trains in the 1930s, and he wasn't like, I guess our level of model trains were like, oh, this is the blue comet that came out in this year, or oh, like I'm looking for one of these pieces here. Do you have it? Or not to my knowledge, I never heard him talk that extensively about trains and stuff. Or oh, I really want to go rail fan the Delaware and Hudson or something. Or really collected. Okay, chief financial officer. Thank you, Dad. But I never heard him talk much about real railroad stuff besides a few stories. He never really collected much train stuff or did railroad photography. Or really knew, to my knowledge, anyone in the train world besides, the clubs. He really liked Lionel. Now, I don't have the picture on me, but there is a picture of my dad and my uncle during the early 60s, and you can see in the basement of the house, which was where Grampy's train layout would always be, and I'm sure many of us, just like me, where our train layouts are. It's like a tradition, right? But that's where the layout was. And this picture is so awesome because it's the post-war layout in genuine post-war times. And Dad and Uncle John, I doubt, have any memories of it. Maybe besides just vaguely remembering the train going around. But in this picture, they have some of the most valuable post-war trains. And I don't know what happened to them. And it bums me out. Grampy had the original post-war the Bud cars. Grampy had the post-war 746J. He had the, what was it? He had the, State of Maine boxcar. He had the, shoot, it's escaping my mind right now. It's like an auto rack, the auto loader. I don't know, something like that. But you had the colorful cars on it. All the accessories and stuff. Like he had the original General and stuff too, from late 50s, early 60s. I don't recall any. He had a GG1. Like, that was awesome. It was a great start. And that's the thing. Grampy enjoyed the trains more than Dad and Uncle John and Aunt Linda did. Because he still had them all those years later, kids being kids. My dad and his siblings just kind of grew out of it. They weren't too that stuff. So, they would be regular teens. A lot of kids kind of grow out of it. At least for me, we started with my generation started with Thomas. A lot of us got out of it. A few of us are still into it or whatever, but anyways, I digress. Grampy was still in the Lionel trains all those years later, and he would get more and more involved in the model train world. He joined the Mohawk chapter of the NMRA, or was it the NMRA? Yeah, and he was also a part of the TCA. In fact, he would be, I don't know if he ever went to the debut of York, but he would be going to the York shows in York, Pennsylvania since they started, and he would actually be a vendor there buying and selling trains, and I'm sure that's what happened to a lot of the older trains that he had, was, like, oh, guys want this right now, I got it, I'll sell it, I'll get myself the brand new for early 1970s or whatever sets that are going on. And it's weird to think these things used to be state of the art, To me, they've always been old. And I'm sorry if there's, any older folks in our audience. And it's like, what? I remember when that was brand new. This isn't old, but to me, this 70s Blue Comet it's getting up there in age. But anyways, Grampy would buy and sell trains. And the funny thing is, the layout was only getting started. For about probably the first 20 years or so, it was, a small layout, probably about the size of this, if not a little less or whatever. So not a big train table, but it got massive. And it got massive because his kids, my dad and his siblings, all moved out of the house. So he had like the entire basement to himself besides Nana's little office, because she wanted her own little office in the corner there. But it's so funny because I could imagine just Nana trying to get some work done downstairs, and Grampy's train layout takes up the entire basement. She probably had like her little typewriter and stuff down there, and they had the old 50s like steel desk. That thing was so heavy to get out of the basement, but she had that little tiny corner, and the rest of it was these loud Lionel trains. And there was like, this is old school Lionel, There's no like carpet or fancy stuff. It's just tube track on plywood board painted white to look like snow. So it was loud, but the layout only got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I wouldn't bet on it, but I would say that Grampy probably had one of the biggest train layouts probably in the Schenectady area. But keep in mind, though, I'm sure there was a lot of older folks, his generation and stuff that, really liked Lionel trains and probably had big layouts too, but I've never seen other layouts of, that era, or just even layouts that size, when I'd go looking on Google at a board, I'm like, oh, Schenectady Lionel or whatever. Even the train layouts, like the stores that had train layouts, for displays, those are like half the size of his train layout. It would be points where it was like, I can't even keep together, like, I can't remember the loop, but it would be like a bizarre figure 8 with several different branch lines, and this was all conventional O-scale Lionel. It was nuts. And there'd be like times, and that's the thing too, the layout was always changing. Remember? Like, it wouldn't just be kind of like this, right, where it's been, well, even though this is only a few years old, but his layout, there always seemed to be new additions and stuff, and that's the thing too, it was pretty easy to put on and take down stuff, it was just, again, a plywood board. So he would be always kind of changing the layout, and that's the thing too, the photos that we do have, which I don't have on me, but these photos were kind of taken from different angles on like an old Kodak camera, so the lens is already zoomed in a lot, and there might be certain things that are out of frame and stuff, but the layout was huge. Grampy had a lot of trains. He probably had, I don't know. It's tough to say how many he had, but he probably had more than I have now. And a lot of what I have, well, some of it's from Grampy, and a lot of it's just been stuff that I've either accumulated over the years or whatever. But what he had in, I guess, the prime of his Lionel days was like probably 2 times what I have now. And if you guys think I got a lot, no. Grampy had so much stuff. He had all the accessories. He had a whole wall of trains that would literally go from the floor of the room all the way to the top. He had yards. He had a little trolley. He had 2 different trolley lines going around, and it was madness. Dad would remember there'd be times where all the train guys in his club would go over, and then I guess they'd run trains down there, and I have no clue how they would have fit, because I don't know how they do it. Even the older train guys today, I don't get how they get around their train layouts. It's like so hard to get under the tables and stuff, or it'll be really narrow. So Grampy's layout took up most of the basement, and there was not much walking room. But anyways, things would kind of slow down in the 80s to 90s, and Grampy would start selling off his trains, and I don't quite know why. I have 2 reasons why, maybe. I think reason 1 might have been, he's just in his 60s, 70s by then, and he's had his fun with the trains, He'll keep kind of the more important ones that mean a lot to him, but some of the other ones he'd get rid of, and it sucks. because the ones that he sold were like gems today. The ones that I've got will never be replaced though. Those are irreplaceable, but the ones that he could have kept too were amazing. If you guys know Lionel's California Zephyr set of the MPC era, this was an all like, kind of like this. Like, that stainless steel metallic look. It was an entire passenger set with two chrome looking FAs. It was amazing. I think he had that. He had a bunch of Pennsylvania FAs with the passenger sets. He had so much cool stuff. But a lot of it was MPC. He really didn't have anything post-war anymore. And, you got to get yourself into the mindset, too, back at the time, Post-war wasn't as valued as it is today by any means. It was just this stuff's like, weird to think it used to be like just 20 years old, right? Or especially if there's anyone in the audience who was, a kid during like the 50s and they're like, oh yeah, I am older than this stuff. And you guys kind of get the thing, where post-war wasn't valued. It was kind of like, it's that old toy, whatever, right? Like Legos, who knows? The Lego sets that, my generation grew up with could be like hundreds of dollars down the road from now, but kind of in that mindset where post-war wasn't much, and this stuff was the newest, hottest trains, and that's what Grampy had. He always had the newer NPC stuff, and again, that would continue to kind of be that way. He always liked his conventional sets, but he always would find, the newer trains more attractive, and I'm sure he knew how valuable post-war would be, and especially that I would get into trains as much as I have, I'm sure he would have kept a lot of that stuff just to see little Corey get the enjoyment of a lifetime or whatever out of that stuff. But yeah, it was, late 80s, 90s, and Grampy's collection was at its max, if not already starting to go down. And by the time I was born in 2002, the layout had kind of changed considerably, and obviously it's not like I have super smart memory, like, oh yeah, I remember where I was on September 9th, 2004, nothing like that, but we still have a lot of photos, and those photos I kind of put in a timeline together, and I've just memorized it, I don't know how, but I know at the time, about there, 2000s-ish, the layout was, decreasing in size. He had gotten rid of that train wall. A lot of those separate branch lines were kind of gone-ish. And a lot of those sets that I would see in pictures and stuff were, kind of gone by that point. So, Grampy would continue to kind of downsize more, but he still got a big kick out of me being the only grandkid into trains at all, My Aunt Linda, her kids, kind of like everyone at a young age, the kids love to watch the train go around, because it's something you don't see too often, but, my cousins, Adam and Johnny, they did grow out of trains because they have their careers have nothing to do with trains and stuff. And my cousins on my uncle's side, my Uncle John, none of my cousins there, got into trains or anything. So out of the entire family, I was the only one who took interest in trains, and I don't know if Grampy knew that, maybe Corey might get out of it, so maybe it's just kind of continue to downsize, or I don't know if he saw a spark in me or anything, and this will touch on more later, because by the time Grampy passed away, I really wasn't into trains at all, but we'll touch on that back in a bit. So you guys get the idea where my interest was dying down as I was growing up, but I still had more of an interest in trains than anyone else. But now you kind of see where the torch is shifting from Grampy's version of trains, where he just liked Lionel trains and stuff, and that was kind of about it. And there'd be times, I'm sure, with his kids, my dad's siblings, where they'd go see a train thing or two, and it was probably more for Grampy's entertainment than it was my dad and his siblings. But yeah, when I grew up Gen Z with Thomas. That's really, besides the Grampy's Lionel trains, that's what starts my story with the whole world of trains here. Thomas the Tank Engine, which I believe was on PBS, I can't remember what hours, that was how I got in. And man, did I love Thomas. Or as Tommy, as I called Thomas, but it was crazy. I was like the biggest, me and a bunch of my friends at the time. That was the thing, my generation, if you wanted a wholesome, nice show to watch, Thomas was it, you know. So many of my friends in preschool, we all loved Thomas. And I don't know if they were doing Thomas stuff because I really liked Thomas or vice versa, but, you know, like some of my friends back then, like Maddie, Christian, or friends later in, like, you know, kindergarten and stuff, Zach, we all really liked Thomas, but I was the train kid. Because, you know, like, oh, they like Thomas because, oh, it's a fun show, but I'm the one who, you know, my grandfather really likes trains and has that train thing. So I was, I guess, I was already Mr. Train Kid at like 3, 4 years old or whatever. But I know exactly, Carter. That's why actually, I can't get him. But I remember a while ago, I thought I got rid of my Lionel Thomas, but no, it's actually still under the layout, and I would actually love to get that thing back to working again. And I wish I could get it actually screen accurate to the original seasons of Thomas. But anyways, we'll keep on going. I was really into Thomas, and I had the wooden railway trains. If you guys, you know, my generation, some of the younger kids out here, if you guys know Thomas wooden railway stuff, you guys know what I'm talking about. That stuff was so much fun, and it was at all the big stores like Toys R Us, or I'm sure Target had it and stuff too, but Toys R Us was where I'd get it a lot, and I remember it so well. That blue box with the red lining on it, you couldn't miss it. Like Lionel, right? Kind of like your orange box. I couldn't pass that Thomas box without staring at it. And Toys R Us had the little displays of the Thomas stuff, right? At least my Toys R Us, they had it right there. And I wanted to get every single model there was. And I really love that we still have family videos and stuff that go back to me being a toddler. And I had, like, you know, there'd be things of me, like, little toddler me, like, oh, you know, like, I'm barely sentient or whatever. I barely know what's going on. And, like, Tommy, or whatever. But I'd be unboxing all that stuff. And I still have a lot of it. And I can't get rid of it. That's something I'm going to pass down to my kids. And I hope they get enjoyment out of it. Although I'm sure, like, you know, 20 years from now, that wooden railway stuff is going to be very valuable. So if I see them play, like, play nice, play nice. Same with the Lionel trains or whatever. But that stuff I loved so much. And Grampy's Lionel's is what really got me into the world of model trains. And I was the generation where, you know, kind of shifting from VHS to DVD, but we had a lot of train DVDs too, and that's where I, like, you know, I didn't belong to any clubs. I didn't know anyone in the big train world. And it's not like I grew up like, oh yeah, my dad's friends with the guys at the Canadian Pacific or CSX or Conrail or whatever. We knew nobody in the train world besides my grandpa. But anyways, yeah, I grew up on a lot of train DVDs, whether that be Thomas stuff, Thomas and the Magic Railroad, that cursed film, or like, you know, what was it? Ah, shoot, I can't remember, but we still have a lot of those DVDs. I Love Toy Trains, that would be another big one. I had so many DVDs and stuff that I just binge watch while playing with the model trains. So I'd be like multitasking. I'd be playing with the model trains while having that in the background. I'd just be glued to the TV, watching it and hearing them play the funny little songs as the trains would go around, or the signals. I remember the signals so well, like the railroad lights or the wigwags, like especially at night. Like, and it's got like that old 2000s, late 90s look where it's all grainy and it's really muffled audio like this. As we watch Santa Fe F3 come around the bend, you know. Exactly. Oh no, it just says Stringman comments, but that's what really, I was just on a train fiasco, you know. I couldn't get enough of it. And I also liked a lot of other things too. That's the thing. I liked machines. Not only trains, you know. I loved tractors. I don't know anything about tractors anymore, but I love John Deere tractors. I don't know how much I was into classic cars, but you know, the Pixar movie Cars, I fell in love with that. And I remember seeing it in theaters. I think that was the first movie I actually saw. So I still got the original tickets to that. Cars is an awesome film. I mean, I feel so bad that people rip it all the time. But anyways, I loved machines. If it had wheels on it or whatever, I was so fascinated with it. Especially white walls. I couldn't get enough of white walls, whether that be on locomotives or cars or whatever. But I loved machines. And I'd start getting into all sorts of different things too. By now, you know, going into my later, I like to say later years. By that I mean 5 to 10. I was still into trains, but you know, other interests in life were starting to come up, especially my generation, you know. I like my friends and stuff, we'd always like the newer stuff too. Like, I was the only one into trains really by that point. Like, you know, whether that be Star Wars, we all loved Star Wars, especially when all the newer Star Wars prequels were coming out. We'd have all the lightsabers and stuff for Pokemon. I was never into Pokemon, but my friends went nuts over that. That took the whole 2000s by storm. Or, just all that stuff. There was a lot of different things that were starting to enter my life, and that's where, the Corey train story is now starting to dip down again. The last time I really had a train renaissance, as I call it, was either when I was 7 or 13. 7 back with the Lionel trains, but 13 was when I started getting into HO trains. It was just out of nowhere. It's like, oh yeah, I like trains. Let me try out HO. I've always wanted to try it. And I started to get some Bachman stuff. And I don't think Grampy had like maybe 1 or 2 HO locomotives that he probably just got from friends or whatever. But, he never had anything much. So we set up, I think for the very first time when I was 12 or 13, or was it 9? I can't remember. Sometime in that short time period, we started my very first train layout. And Dad, just like this layout, Dad did so much of the work here. So everyone, a round of applause for Robert Edward, because that poor layout did not get appreciated at all. We built a little corner L layout, right where Littleville sits. If you guys know my HO layout, Littleville. It was in that corner here. This room did not exist at all. This was an addition of the house. So in our kind of small basement, it just sat in that corner, and it was kind of an L or U shape, or kind of a C, right, for Corey or whatever. But it was that, and it was originally an O-gauge layout, but it was just fast track, so we took the fast track off, and it was nothing screwed down or anything. It was just, plywood with the grass mat on it, and let Corey do whatever he wants. And in between those years, it become, just use it for my other toys, and then it's like, okay, we'll make it an HO layout, and there were so many different things I wanted to do with it, and I'm really happy my parents didn't do anything, because it would have sucked the way the layout came out. It would have been awful, and I would have hated that they would have put so much work into it, all for it to just get knocked down. Especially if you would do the addition, and now the layout's like in the middle of the hallway that's supposed to be here. So that layout did not last for, well, actually it was around for a little while, but I never really used it much after 2013 or anything. And that's kind of where the Corey train story starts to dip down or whatever. Like, now is when I'm starting to get into my really nerd phase. It's really started liking, tanks and Doctor Who of all things, and robots, and gosh, all sorts of different stuff. And I feel like that might have made Grampy sad, because there would be times where he'd ask me, like, hey, Corey, still into trains or whatever? I never thought of it much. I'm like, yeah, oh, yeah. But really, I'm not nearly as much as I am. Like, now I'm permanently stuck in the trains. But, from then, I wasn't really interested in the trains that much. I just had other stuff going on. Now I'm, like, through elementary, going into middle school. And I was in those years, middle school, oh, I hated it, but I was in those puberty years of growing up, and just a lot of different stuff going on. And Grampy now really, I think, started downsizing. By then, the layout was already drastically shortened. When I was a kid, he lowered the whole layout, probably after 2006, and it, just like our train layout here, it was, CJ, buddy, what's up? Oh, it's been such a long time. I hope to see you at the spring meet this coming weekend. But anyways, Grampy's layout was like the U, and it wasn't too big anymore, not nearly as big as it used to be. And I think after that is when he chopped the layout down again, and now the layout, instead of being a U, it was just a plain old rectangle with one loop of track on and a few buildings, and that was it. So I think, it would get shorter and shorter. Okay, water break. I was like, I'm timing myself. Like, okay, if I have like 30 minutes, then I'll need a water break. That's a little better. But by then, things would start getting put in their boxes and not really used much again. There'd be the occasional time when, going over to Nana and Grampy's would use a train layout, but it really wasn't much. And keep in mind, I had a really close relationship with my grandparents. It's not like I'd see them every day, but we saw them like every Saturday and every Sunday, and usually see them, probably once during the week. So a lot more than a lot of other kids would have with their grandparents and stuff. So as a kid, I always wanted to run the train layouts. And another fun thing we do is we'd always go to the train stores. There were, and there's none left anymore, which is really sad. But two train stores Grampy would take me to was a place called Bob's Trains. Not the name of Bob, and that's the thing. Grampy being named Robert Ward, which is where ours trains comes from. Grampy would just be called Bob Ward, and I think that's where Bob for Bob the Snowman came from. But Bob's Trains has nothing to do with Grampy. But there was a little store called Bob's Trains that sold mostly like used Lionel stuff. I don't remember it well, unfortunately. Located right in downtown Schenectady. And then there was another place. If there's anyone in the capital region here, you guys will remember. What do you call it? Mohawk Valley. That sound on my nose there. No, I'm not about to cry. It looked like it was like Mohawk Valley. But Mohawk Valley was the biggest train store, I think, in the capital region. Now it's a Milepost Hobbies, obviously, but Mohawk Valley was the place to go. You know, they were located right by Schenectady, and they had a huge O-gauge train layout that was like a literal mountain. That was my favorite thing to do. I remember Grampy taking me in that train store and stuff. We'd walk around and we'd always, look at the trains and be running them for great memories at that store. But by the time, I'm in my mid-teens now, train layouts not gone, but everything's in their boxes. And by now, Grampy had mostly given me everything that he still owned. Keep in mind that, since I was a little kid, he'd give me things probably about every Christmas or every birthday. So, when I turned either 11 or something, or 9, or I don't know, is when he gave me the whole Blue Comet set. And this was the Sacred Train, which we'll touch on again a little later. But he would give me, some of his Lionel trains. And by the time, I'm in my mid-teens, I have them all. The layout's not being used anymore. And I have the essentials to what would become ours trains. I've got all the trains here. We've got the track. It's all just in boxes now by this point. And it's waiting to be rediscovered, which will happen just a few years later at this time. So now let's say what? We're probably in 2016, 2017. My grandfather now at this point was the only one left living in the house. My Nana had passed away in 2014 due to Alzheimer's, and Grampy was lonely, and that was probably some of the saddest years of his life, losing the love of your life. And really the only family left was, my mom, my dad, and me that were close to him. So, kind of being, living on his own and stuff. And keep in mind, we'd always visit. Now, by this point, Dad would be there like every other day and stuff. And we'd always go visit him and stuff. And just hang out in the living room, watch Jeopardy or the news or golf or whatever. I miss those days. You know how much fun it'd just be to sit. And that's an old folk thing, too. Like, elderly people have kind of the heat on. It'd be so hot just sitting in the dim living room there in that leather couch with the old carpet and the 70s walls and stuff and all the pictures and the big TV. Grampy and his old red recliner and stuff. I just miss those memories so much. But, we'd just go hang out with Grampy and just keep him company, or we'd bring him over here, or just go out to eat and stuff like that. But now by 2017, Grampy was 90 years old, and we decided that, I don't know what happened, but I think he had fell, and he was on hospice care at this time, or I don't know. He was, we just had a nurse who would come over and make sure everything was going good whenever we could and stuff. But I believe he had fell and he wasn't able to get back up or anything in his office. So I think that was the thing, like, okay, let's just move Grampy into the house here. It'd be so much nicer to just have him with us so we can look after him, and it'd just be, a lot easier. And that's where the idea of the addition came in. So I believe it was, Dad, you'll have to help me out here. I think it was June when we were like, okay, let's move Grampy over. So we brought some of his smaller things, like, his clothes and stuff. And the smaller things, we didn't bring any furniture in it. Actually, no, we brought his recliner over. We brought one of his recliners over and stuff like that. But, nothing big or anything. And he moved into the house with us, and it was only a week until he passed away. He passed away peacefully. I don't know, but yeah, it was June of 2017. I don't know if that was God's way or anything. I don't know if just moving out of your comfort zone. I don't know what it was, but there was nothing bad, Grampy just passed away in his sleep, kind of like everyone. Or, well, not everyone, but just I don't know, just peacefully. I don't quite know how to say it. It's something I don't like to discuss much, but and that's the thing. You never expect it to. We knew Grampy was getting up there in age. We knew he was getting tired, and things weren't looking. It's not like we were expecting another 10 years like Queen Elizabeth or something, right? But that was the thing. Uh, it was just Friday. It was going into a Friday night. He was up with us, and it's not like it was Grampy from my childhood or anything. Grampy was really tired by this point, and it was hard for him to tell stories or speak much without getting really exhausted. But just watch I think it was a game. Watch the it was 4th of July actually. Yeah, I think it was July 6th. No, well, whatever. We were watching the fireworks and stuff like that, and just had a beer with my dad, and went to bed. We all said goodnight to him and stuff, helped him get to sleep, and that was it. But yeah, it was I don't know how to say it. It sucked, to put it lightly, because that was my. There was a lot I wish I could have said to him. Especially now. Jeez, I didn't think this had happened, but I like it though. It's good to get sad because it showed you cared and had a good relationship, right? But by the time I passed away, I wasn't into trains at all. I was just a middle school brat. I like to, did best in my grades, but I'd have a good time, my friends and stuff. But he never saw me get into trains at all. And that was, I think, the biggest factor that got me into trains. I almost would say it was kind of guilt. It was like, Grampy gave me all these trains, and they're just sitting in boxes. And it was probably about a year later after he passed away, when the additions now went. It's like, I always wanted to build a proper train layout. Let me finally build one. So that's where ours train started. I broke out a bunch of boxes of his Lionel trains, and I just put him in a loop on the floor. And I was like, dude, this is so much fun. I was just sitting on the floor for hours. I'm like 17 years old. I'm a almost adult at this point, and I'm sitting on a stone cold basement floor watching Grampy's old Lionel trains go around. And I was like, dude, this is so much fun. Let's build a train layout. So, yeah, and that's the thing. By this point, and that's the thing, I'd always wanted to be a YouTuber. And by this point, I was like, okay, let's put together a YouTube channel and maybe try to see if anyone else likes Grampy's trains. And by this point now, and that's tricky to talk about because I wasn't permanently cemented in trains at that point, but I was much more than I was as a little kid. And I was like, okay, I'm going to put together a train layout and we'll see where we go from there. So I put together a loop. I was like, okay, the train layout's going to be this rough shape. And I would change it around every so often. But I was like, yeah, all right, we got the train layout together. And by now, I was already filming a bunch of videos for fun. I would just put together stuff on iMovie with my phone. Not this phone, but on iMovie out of boredom. That was my thing. I had so much joy of just putting together videos and stuff. And I don't know, just remember like, yeah, all right, now that I got videos together, I got enough to make a channel. So I remember sitting by the fire. It was, was it August 24th or 25th, 2018? A few days before I started the channel. And that was when I was like, okay, no, we'll try this name, no, we'll try this name, we'll try this name. Ours Trains. I like it. And that was the day Ours Trains is born. I think it was either August 27th or 28th. Ours Trains is going to be 5 years old this year, by the way. But, yeah, I was like, how about, let's name Ours Trains after my grandfather, Robert Boyd. So now you guys know what Ours Trains stands for, but the story is far from over. Now you guys kind of get how everything's come together. So if we have any Ours Trains veterans here, whatever you'd like to say, not military veterans, I'm talking veterans of the channel who have been here since the very beginning, which probably isn't too many people anymore. That's the thing, a lot of that older audience I haven't seen in a long time, but still could be there. But there's some folks who I know, especially this one gentleman, Richard Tradesable. I don't know if Rich is on tonight, but Rich was there. I found Rich first, and he found me. He's a big post-war guy, but yeah, I started putting out videos, and it's really hard to put you back into the mindset of old Corey. I had the world at my fingertips. I would just remember laying in bed, just watching my videos over and over again, thinking, wow, wouldn't that be amazing if somebody watched this? And the problem was, I would watch my videos. Why is that bumping around? I would watch my videos so many times where it inflated the view count. So it would be like 23 views, but 21 of those views would have been me just watching the video over again. And I wasn't doing it on purpose to try to rack up numbers. I was just like, wow, this video was so cool. Let me watch it again and again and again. RJ, dude, oh my goodness, it's been a while. Well, I'm now into the story of Ours Trains at this point, but RJ, great to see you, and stuff like that. We were at Steve's a few weeks ago or whatever, but RJ, great to see you. Thanks for swinging in. But, where did I leave off? Yeah, at this point, I was just getting, naturally 5 views-ish per video. And that's the thing, a lot of these videos aren't around anymore, but what I do have is screenshots of those videos. So I'll always remember what the subject of the thing was and stuff, but yeah, I would just film the videos of my trains going around. No narration, no nothing. Sometimes I'd put stock iMovie music in it and things, but yeah, I was just, filming my trains on the floor. I'd post the YouTube video. It would be something really simple. It'd just be called, like, Blue Comet in action or whatever and stuff. But it would just be Grampy's Trains because I didn't have any of this other stuff. All I had was Grampy's Trains and, like, 3 loops of Fast Track, and that was it. And 1 Transformer. And I didn't have any of this train stuff, or, especially any of the stuff on the layout. So, yeah, I would film my videos around, and very slowly but surely, I would start to get a little more views. And a little more views. And a little more views. But the thing was, I wasn't doing anything original. And that's why I didn't grow. If there's anyone here who's looking to really start, trying to get your channel up and growing, my biggest thing is be yourself and try to be as original as you can, or make it you, And I say a lot. Take a drink every time I say Especially the SC&H video. Did you guys count how many times I said that? It was so funny. I had my mom crying. But slowly but surely, I started to build up videos, but the videos weren't original. It was just a train going around and that was it. There was no personality behind it. And that's the biggest thing I think which really helps a channel, is trying to put a personality to things, Like trying to be, make the channel cool in your own way, whether that be narrating a video or making a unique twist on it or doing live action footage of yourself reviewing a train. That's where I started to think where Ours Trains wasn't growing. I'm like, yeah, the thing isn't moving at all because it's not me. You wouldn't have any clue who it is. And that was one big thing that started to get me more involved with the videos. So by now, I think it's late 2018 or something. And was it early 2019? Oh, I can't remember. The years really blur. I think it was late 2018. And it would serve to be a very special day because it was the very first time I went out and decided, it's fun to film model trains, but let me find a real train. And it was late November after Thanksgiving, and the Canadian Pacific holiday train was coming through town. Some of you guys might know what that is. If not, Canadian Pacific before it's now CPKCS, whatever. But you wonder if it's going to be any different this year now, right? But they had a Christmas train that'd go around and be light up boxcars and passenger cars. The locomotive was all lit up and it would go all across the country and stuff. And it was a lot of fun, and I got wind that it was coming around. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Why don't I bring my dad's crappy camcorder It's our dad. It's not crappy. It's a great camcorder, but just by today's standards, it's not too good anymore. But let me bring Dad's camcorder, and I'll film the train, and I'll put it on YouTube, and that's what I did. And that was my first big video, and by that I mean 200 views. But back then, I was blown away. I remember being in study hall, being in my sophomore year of high school, and I was like, dude, it's got 196 views. This is crazy. Or whatever. So I was so happy to just be getting all those little views, and that's the thing. I was starting to get more and more subscribers, but I even think that video didn't have anything original to it all. I just started to get a schedule together. So putting and I don't have a schedule today at all. You guys know my upload schedule is complete. It's more harder to catch than, I don't know, the hardest train you can think of to catch or whatever. But I started to get a kind of more, I don't know, decent-ish upload schedule, but I can't remember the very first video I made me, or I don't know, that I was in. If we do have anybody here who remembers that, or anyone who's bored and wants to go find it, have fun. But I remember somewhere in the 2019 era is where I decided to step in front of the camera. I think it was like 200 subscriber special or something. I don't know, but I started gaining subscribers. And I think, and if they're here tonight at all, oh my goodness, they're godsends. But GFW Trains, I don't know if George and Wally are here tonight, but I don't know how I found them. No, actually, they found me. I remember just on one of my videos, I started getting more and more, I started to film with the Canon, my good camera. I was starting to film videos more and more frequently because I'm like, I think I can make ours trains into something or whatever. And, I had RBP style, aspirations. Like, okay, I want to become the biggest train channel on YouTube or whatever. I want to be, the star of model trains. And it's silly by today's standards because it's like when everyone grows up, like, oh, we're all going to become celebrities because it's just me, like I'm going to be famous versus now it's like, I don't care about the fame. Hello, one viewer. Thanks for swinging in today. Back then, I wanted to become train superstar, and that's kind of the thing that motivated me to keep putting out videos. I wanted to try to grow an audience. I wanted to see how far can I get our trains to go. So I started stepping in front of the camera more. I tried doing different topics, and GFW Trains were super responsible to growing my channel. George and Wally, I don't know how many subscribers they had at the time, probably like, gosh, 400 or something. Oh, actually, no, I think they just had 1,000 by that time. But yeah, I think probably Wally commented on one of my videos, and it's like, just, the, oh, super cool, thanks for sharing with the thumbs up emoji. And I was like, whoa, who's GFW Trains? Because I didn't get that many comments back then, too, not nearly the interaction that we have today, audience, but yeah, we had, or they commented on my video, and I saw over there, and by now we're entering the 2020 era. 2019 had been more real-life trains, but I wasn't enjoying it that much, like, oh yeah, NSCSX, trying to be a rail fan, but I get really jealous because a lot of other people I know would either have connections to guys in the big train world, or, they just knew when the coolest trains would go by, and I'd get really sad that I wasn't getting invited out or anything. Like, what the heck? Like, the Pan Am OCS or Norfolk Southern OCS went by and you didn't invite me? Versus today, I don't even care about this stuff anymore. But back then, younger Corey was very jealous. So I was like, okay, I don't know how much I like this rail fanning stuff anymore, but I'm going to keep doing it anyways. But going into late 2019, it was like, yeah, we'll try some of the model train stuff, some of this, some of that, but ours trains is kind of slowing down it, and then 2020 is when the pandemic started, and that's when I started to get back into model trains, and that's when GFW Trains found me. It's a little hard to remember the timeline off the top of my head, but I've loosely got it together. But yeah, I saw that George and Wally were starting their live streams, their Fast Friday streams, but at that point, George and Wally were streaming every single day. And it was just awesome because, again, a lot of the guys in the train hobby, at least in O-Gauge, and I don't mean to sound rude or anything, but, we're older guys, it's no one my age. I didn't know of anyone at the time on YouTube who was my age. Like, the closest guy was probably JD Stucks, Jason or whatever. And that was it. That's kind of big age gap there. But seeing George, someone who's younger than me with his dad and his grandpa who all like trains. Like, how could you not like it? So I would tune in to every single one of their streams, and I became more and more active in their community there. And I yeah, they shouted me out on one stream. I think that was the first stream I actually joined, and it was like I remember Wally being like, "Oh, check it out, everybody! We got Corey here. Ours Trades is a really nice guy. You gotta check out his channel. Really cool content, Corey." Or I don't know, something like. And if Wally's watching, you guys, oh my goodness, Wally and his friends just beat the world record for fastest canoe down the Mississippi River. So Wally, if you ever see this or whatever, if anybody sees Wally, send him this message. But Wally, way to go! You guys did such an awesome job. But yeah, Wally and George comment on the channel, and eventually things got rolling so much that they decided to have me on as a guest. And I was originally supposed to be, I think, one of the first guests on the channel, but some other things happened, just wasn't able to in time. But I was I think at the time, I was like probably one of the most anticipated, I don't know, guests or something, because there were so many people chatting, like, where's Corey, where's Corey, where's Corey? So, and it was so nervous. That was the first time I'd ever been like on an interview or whatever. And it was great. I wish I could relive those days, because everything, things just felt so nice and happy. And they do now too, but just those young days of ours trains where I had 100 subscribers, 200 subscribers, and it was great that I was on the live stream and I just couldn't stop talking, like now, but it was an interview thing, which made it worse because George and Wally were just like, well, I was like, okay, but my favorite train is this, and my favorite thing, like, oh, thank you so much for having me. Like I had to pour my heart out because I'd never done this before, and it was so awesome. So, yeah, they had me on the stream, and just from there is when, that's the thing, a lot of the Ogage community that I noticed before, I kind of got out of it, I guess you could say, but we were all, if you watch this guy's channel, you watch this channel, and you watch, like, we all have, like, our audiences are all shared, I guess, it's not like, oh, you have 400 people who watch your channel, but these 400 people never watch me, like, everyone who watches our channels watch different people, but you kind of get the idea. It's tough to describe, but yeah, the channel started to grow more and more and more, and the thing was, it was crazy. I started gaining 100 subscribers, like a new 100 milestone, like every week or two. What a time to be alive. Because back then, and even today, especially today, but back then where I never experienced something like this before, it meant so much to me. I was like, dude, what the heck? Now I gotta do a 300 subscriber special. Now I gotta do a 400 and a 500. And I was like, okay, I think I'm just gonna wait till we get to 1,000 to do a special or whatever, but yeah, ours, and that's the thing, I was starting to put out more and more videos and stuff, and it was great. I think I even got mentioned by Classic Toy Trains one time in a little article they were, or no, it was just a little on that, they're like, oh, another neat young YouTube channel to check out, and it was a link to one of my really old bad videos, but anyways, now, by then, I am permanently into trains. There's nothing you can do to get me out of trains here. Like, I am full steam ahead. Corey is into train madness at this point. I have now become the destined train kid I was supposed to come. And what sucks is Grampy never saw it, He never saw ours train start. He never saw the layout or anything. He probably, last time he would have thought, like, oh yeah, guess Corey's not into trains. Oh well, whatever. And he would be so happy to see everything that's come then. But the story's still not even finished. From there, now we're like 2021 or whatever, I guess you could say the renaissance of our trains and stuff. I've got all sorts of different videos going out. Really, I lived up to the saying, everything train related. I was doing real life trains. I was doing model trains. I was doing live steam scale. Occasionally I do, I don't think I did do actually any historical train videos and stuff. That's a subject I always wanted to do, but yeah. That was kind of, like, now ours trains is established, and now it's like every few months we're gaining another few hundred subscribers and stuff, but something happened in mid to late 2021 that really slowed down the channel on my end, like, my fault, but that's college. And that's the thing, too. I was starting to get burnout, I guess you could say, because there's only so many times you can film the model trains go around. Although people can film their trains forever and will always be interested in it. But for me, I'm the type of person where I don't like doing the same thing, you know. I'm a creator, like I'm a graphic designer, and you know, I just like to build things. And I just can't do the same thing over and over again. I can't just film the same train or oh, same format, but it's a different locomotive. That's where I was really starting to get worn out trying to look for different video ideas, but then college hit and I was like, you know, I don't know how much time I'm gonna have for the channel anymore. So college, especially my first semester, was really rough, man. I was just like completely losing my mind. I was like, oh my goodness, this is so hard, man. I'm not gonna be able to do this at all. Like I was so stressed. Like I was just so scared for everything. Like oh man, I'm gonna do so bad. Like oh I'm I don't know. There was a lot racing through my mind at the time, and ours trains really slowed down on my half because you know video making wasn't at the top of my mind anymore like it was 2020 because I didn't have anything else going on. None of us did. It was COVID, you know. We couldn't do anything else, so the only thing I could do was just, you know, film the trains, post it to YouTube, or just go rail fan as long as I wasn't close to anyone. But yeah, kind of going into 2021, you know, your life's getting back to normal. And now I'm in college, you know, I've graduated through grade school. And that's the thing, you know, life keeps moving on. That's kind of a thing we've learned through the entire story of ours trains, I guess you could say. But college really stopped the channel a lot. But throughout this time, the only thing that I was doing consistently on ours trains was Sunday Run Day. That I was inspired off of GFW trains, and a while ago, Sam from Sam's O Gauge Trains, and RJ, they also had a model train podcast they were doing together. And I was like, oh yeah, you know, let me start streaming because that was another popular thing that all the O Gauge guys were starting to do. So I'm like, okay, I'll try my hand at streaming, and that's what started our little tradition here of Sunday Run Day. But uh, yeah, the only thing I was consistently doing at this point, besides the loose video every now and then, besides college, was Sunday Run Day. And it was, and it always will be awesome. It was just so much fun to, I felt like a late night host or whatever. And you know, hey, if Jimmy Fallon or whatever steps aside and he's looking for someone young, I'll take over the Tonight Show. We'd have fun. We'll put a desk train layout on the thing there or whatever, but it was felt like hosting my own little show, and it was so awesome chatting to you guys because it was just nice and interactive. You know, it wasn't a big audience where felt like I was talking to a wall the whole time where I'd never know what I'd ever see. You know, we would all be reading the chat or whatever, or just you know having our good old weekend chat. But as college progressed, even Sunday Run Day started to stop, and I just had other things going on in life, and it was just like, man, it felt so hard to get started back on the channel. You know, it's like, oh man, I've been gone for such a long time. Everyone probably thinks I'm dead or whatever. It's like, oh, like okay, got to do your stream. And when it gets to that, content should never be like that. You should never have to dread making videos or anything. I'm not saying like, you know, I dread like, oh, I hate making videos. It's never like that. It's just like, man, I just feel so tired to put the same train on, film it, run around like, oh, whatever we're doing this, or it just I don't know. It didn't feel fun like it had that 2020, 2021 spark or anything. So I really started slowing down or whatever. College really was just taking up my time. And I guess now, mid 2021, now we're out for the summer. Sure, I do a video here and there, but other things just started. And that's just the thing of growing up, you know. It's kind of hard to do the same thing your entire life. But yeah, I do more streams, I do more videos, but something started in late 2021 that would forever change my story with trains and make me even more obsessed with trains if that's even possible. But it was December 27th, 2021, and if you've watched the SCNH video, you know where I'm going. But my dad always reads the newspaper, and he saw in a little corner section, Notice of Formation, the Saratoga, Corinth, and Hudson Railway. And keep in mind, my entire life, I'd always wanted to be a conductor, you know, not like a freight railroad or anything, freight conductor, but, you know, always wanted to be a tourist conductor. And I don't know how I knew immediately, but I knew Hal Raven was involved, my boss. And Hal Raven trained Maven, whatever the news article, the Chronicle did a while ago on him. But Hal Raven, for those who don't know, it's got to be, in my opinion, the most important railroad figure in modern New York history, in my opinion. Hal has done so much for rail preservation and saving like the most historic diesel Alco of them all. Alco number 5, the plant switcher for Schenectady. Alco number 5 saw the end of the steam era, built in 1947, and she saw every single Schenectady Alco ever built because she would switch him in the building and stuff, but he saved Alco 5, and it had been his lifelong dream to always put together a railroad of his own, so he formed the, oh, I even have little Bradley P. Bear. But would be to form his own railroad, and that's what he did in Corinth, New York. So if you're ever in the upstate New York area, make sure to check out the Saratoga, Corinth, and Hudson Railway at www.corinthtrade.com. But no, I had always wanted to join a railroad, and it sucked because of Saratoga North Creek, the railway before us. If you guys again know Excited Train Guy, that viral video like 12 years ago of the guy like, wow, look at that train, or whatever, of the BL2, like, oh, BL2, like, if you remember that was the Saratoga North Creek, great operation from, like, a scenic point, like, they had 52 miles, whatever, Bradley P. Bear might as well sit on my lap now as we tell this little story, yeah, look at that scout. But, how, Saratoga North Creek went out, bankrupt 2018, right when I started Rush Trains, which sucked because I'd always wanted to join a railroad. Now my only chance to see the only local tourist railroad was gone. But like I said in the video, I eventually reached out to Hal and joined the crew. My first day on was May 20th, and not May 20th was my first day, but May 22nd, the date of our first run, is the day everything changed. And it has been nuts how much fun we've had ever since. It was something I never thought really realistically that would happen, but I'm sure many of us here have always wanted to work for a railroad or just do some type of fun job like that. Because you don't have as much fun on a big railroad like you do us. We're a small operation. Everybody knows each other. We're all family. We're all friends. And, we all go out and have fun with each other. And it's that type of thing. Like we take our job very seriously, of course, but we still love to have fun and inside outside trail. It's just I could go on and on forever, but the SCNH has been one of the most important things to ever happen in my train life or whatever, and I'm so thankful to be on the crew. It's literally been a dream come true, but that's really where everything changed. It's kind of where I've been since, ever since I started doing conductor, because now, especially during our summer runs, I didn't have time to do videos anymore because I was up at the train almost every other day, and being Mr. Conductor with the ticket puncher. And when I say Mr. Conductor, I'm not referring to Shining Time. I've never watched Shining Time. Somebody asked me, like, oh, that's such a great reference. I'm like, barely watched the show, but thanks. But yeah, being Mr. Conductor, doing the tickets, that's the thing. Our train is so unique because it's so different from other ones, Our scenery is kind of one of a kind, but it's really the people on our train and all the different events that make it special. Like, we'd have so many different types of things. In fact, just this past weekend, well, actually, we're still in this weekend, but this weekend we had so many different types of, well, not that many, but we had 4 different types of trains. We had a field trip train, which is great. It was a bunch of kindergartners, and you know how much fun it is to see all those little kids enjoy a train ride, but we had kindergartners, we had a Moonlight Express. I'm not of age to serve alcohol, but I was conductor on board that train. But, we would go up to a little spot on the line called Kings. Everyone would get off. There'd be a fire there. We had folks would bring their own food. There was Fossil Stone Vineyards. They'd be selling their drinks. There was live music, and the train right next to the folks lit up kind of little area there. And anyways, that train, so kind of like, your evening night train. And then the day after the Alco Historical Society, I wasn't on that train, but they had a photo charter train, and this was the first time in SCNH history, and first time since the Saratoga North Creek, and first time since probably the Delaware and Hudson days, since 2 active passenger trains passed each other, kind of like Strasburg, where one was on the siding and the other went by. I was on the main passenger train, and Brad, Hal, and I think it was Nate were on the the photo charter train, but still, we had a photo charter train, and after that, the Alco Historical Society, Bill Bibby. Bill, if you ever watch this by chance, I know it's like 70 minutes in, and Bill does not have that time, but Bill Bibby, fantastic man, Delaware and Hudson Railroad veteran, started working for the D&H in the mid-60s, but, family full of D&H railroaders, but Bill Bibby was telling us some of his great railroad stories and stuff on the D&H there. So you had that, and you just had our regular scenic trains, which were fun too. And then there was a person, Dave, I believe his name was, who pulled in his chopper trike or whatever, so got me a picture of it right next to Alco 5. But we have so much fun on the train, and about there is kind of where we currently are with our trains. The current status of the channel is kind of like, I guess it's been for a while. It's not like, I ever plan to, I don't know, be like, oh, let's get back to work, like daily uploads or whatever. Like, of course, now that I know the SCNH schedule much better, and kind of working through college summer classes, I'm going to try to get out a lot more videos, of course, for you guys, because that's the fun of it. It's so much fun to share these trains with you guys, but trying to find some new video ideas, as well as just, film things that people don't often see too much, like, life as a conductor on the train to be a fun one, or just, maybe some creature feature things of the trains or whatever. It just, updates, or I don't know, certain things, stuff like that. That's kind of the direction I see ours trains at, like, I'm happy where I'm at. I'm so thankful that we are 4,000 strong, like, I don't need no 100,000 subscribers or 1 million to be happy. I'd be happy with 100 or 50 or whatever. Just the fact that those people alone, 50 or 100 people, would care to subscribe nonetheless. 4,000 people. That's a lot of train. That's a lot of train cars and subscribers, whatever you'd like to say. But it's just been such a wonderful, nice, slow, amazing journey ours trains has been on the past 5 years, and it is not possible at all without you guys. You guys, me, and I wish I could do like a subscriber board thing where I could write down the name of every subscriber who built little ours trains up or whatever. And ours trains will always be my baby or whatever. Although I'll go on to other train things in my life, I'll still always hold you guys at a very special place in my heart, because you guys are the ones that really got me back into trains. Besides Grampy's trains here, it was the fact that people cared enough to even watch my videos in the first place is what kind of inspired me to keep going. I'm like, hey, there's an audience out here for this stuff. Let's keep moving. So you guys are all stars, whatever you'd like to say, but it's been such an awesome journey. Over all the people I've met, all the places I've been, and we really haven't done that much, It's not like I've gone nationwide or whatever, or I've been on these magazines and stuff. Ours trains have kind of had a, I don't know, peaceful, slow thing over the years, nice slow pace, like, oh yeah, video, live stream, this, that, nothing crazy big, but that's the way I like it. I don't want to be like anymore, because celebrities, dude, oh, it's tough to be that, and I wouldn't want to be that. It's just too much, and it just doesn't feel right. I don't like the spotlight like that much on me or whatever, but man, I don't quite know where else to go from that. But I think before we end out, we got to do the museum trip real quick before we go, because I took all these really important locomotives out, and I think Grampy would be more than happy to see me share them with you guys. So before we head, and of course we'll run the trains and do a little night run, because it's an absolute classic here in ours trains, but I think we'll start on this end and down here. So let me flip the camera, and we're going to start out with a very important locomotive. Now that we got the whole story of ours trains mostly out of the way, we start with this locomotive here. I think, maybe, just maybe, this might be Grampy's very first train. And a lot of these trains you guys will probably remember on videos and stuff, but this here is Grampy's 259E from the mid-30s, I believe. This might be 1932, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, he would have got this as a little kid. And his parents, the Lionel was expensive back in the day, but Grampy's parents definitely probably would have had the money to afford something like this. These trains were top of the line back then. So this, I think, was Grampy's very first train. And if this isn't, that's the thing, I don't ever have a way to confirm it, because he never told me, like, oh yeah, Corey, that's it. So I'll always kind of live in question it as if this is really Grampy's first train, or it was a train he just bought at a train show because he really liked it. But I'm pretty sure this is it, because this is one he always had, and he always had it in like a special little spot on its own shelf or whatever. And this is always just, I don't know. I think if he had if he had this one tin plate locomotive amongst all this new stuff, I think this has got to have some sort of relation with him. But yeah, this here I think is Grampy's first locomotive, and this is such a special piece to have, and it's awesome that I still have it, that it wasn't thrown away. But as we go around, a lot of the trains are here are Grampy's trains. I'm going a little out of order. I just want to show them to you guys, and these aren't even all of them, but it's so hard to pluck and choose because I love them all equally. Well, some a little more than others, let's be honest now. But a lot of these trains are all super special in my heart. And as we continue down the line from the 259E, we have this really busted old Lionel post-war caboose. I doubt anybody would know the age on this, but this is a brown Lionel 6017 light-up caboose. Still got the old, like, probably asbestos lead covered bulb in the inside, which I don't dare to touch, but this thing is in really rough shape. It doesn't run anymore. It isn't, oh, the coupler's on the wrong side. Maybe, I don't know, maybe this helps you guys. Can you see the little Lionel made in Michigan or whatever thing or whatever on the bottom? No, I guess not, huh? Interesting. But this caboose here is very, very old. This was one of the only post-war pieces Grampy still had by the time I was a kid. The only 3 post-war things he had left was this, a red gondola, and a red hopper, coincidentally. So yeah, this caboose I always loved as a kid. I don't know why, it was just neat. I was just so attracted. I'm like, wow, that's such a cool red caboose. So although it's in rough shape, I don't want to fix it because this is kind of how I remember it, you know. Especially by the time, you know, it was 50 years old when I came around, and now it's probably almost 70. So this caboose holds a special place in my little heart. And then as we move on, we have this little green trolley. Some of you may remember it, some not. But as I mentioned earlier, Grampy's layout had 2 trolley line tracks, you know, where it was bump and go on each end. So this is one of the trolleys he has left, or had by the time we came around. He had 2 others. He had an orange, I think an orange San Francisco trolley, and he had a track gang car, whatever you call it. But those 2 just got lost to time, and this is the last one we have. So this was always fun. He always had this one running around. It would be so fun to watch it bump into one end and watch the little top antenna turn around and then it go back on the other side. Especially the silhouettes. These things are so classic. Any kid who grew up with Lionel will always admire the silhouettes in the windows. Those are so fun to look at. But as we continue to go on down the line here, this is a very unique train. During America's bicentennial, everyone was going all crazy patriotic. And even Lionel decided to and they did a lot of stuff. But this was their, I believe this is Seaboard. Yeah, you can see right in the front there, Seaboard Coastline. This was their, Lionel's take on Seaboard's Coastline's locomotive here, GE U-23, I believe. U-boat, 1776. And this locomotive, along with the matching caboose, I don't know if the caboose is Frisco, but still, they match each other, great as you can see. And this one boxcar here, Lionel did Lionel do all 50 states or all 13 colonies? I think it was the 13 colonies, but this train was always out of touch. You never moved this one. Grampy's office, which I mentioned earlier, which is kind of almost attached to his TV living room. That's where, he did his work at home. But those back shelves there always had trains on them. And those trains back there, I think, were the ones he really, really liked. Or, he was like, okay, this looks too nice to just put in the back box or just leave on the layout. So this was one of the trains he's had for a long time. And this, as a kid, I always remember being on the back shelf there, along with several other trains, some of which are on the layout, some of which aren't. But some of the other ones, like, my Lionel MPC 611, that was one of them. That one he really liked. That might have been one of his favorite steam engines. But anyways, this was a locomotive that never saw much runtime. And it's not too good of a runner today, and I think it might be because it never got ran or whatever. So the motor just, sitting still for now almost 50 years. Probably doesn't do it too good, but yeah, this is a classic here. I know a few other guys who have it and stuff, but Now we move down to these two trains. These two are super, super important because these, I believe, are some of the first trains I've ever got. These are also both Grampy's, but we have two NPCs right here. We call, oh, well, we don't call, but this one here is Burlington Northern U-Boat. 8651. This is the dummy unit. I have the powered one back on the shelf because this line here is not isolated. So if I were to turn on the main line here, the other one would go off when I don't want it to. So I just put the dummy here, but we have the dummy here, which was, I think, probably my second train. And this one here, I think, is my first one. It might be vice versa, but it's either one of these two. Back in the early 2000s, by that I mean like, probably 2006, 2007, Grampy had given me these. And this one, we have a specific picture of me on my birthday. This is the New York Central 8600. This one is out of service because it smokes really bad, and I think the smoke unit burnt completely because it smells like burnt plastic, which ain't too good. But these two hold a special place in my heart. They're absolute classics, and I don't know too many other people who have these, but these, I'd always run these at home, or sometimes run them on Grampy's trail layout, or whenever I'd have a loop of track under the Christmas tree, it'd always be one of these two, and they're just classics of my childhood. I remember being this height and watching them go around the train layout back and forth and back and forth. It was just memorizing. Or there'd be times where I wouldn't even have the layout on. What I really liked to do as a kid was I would just have the trains off and just push them around with my hand. Kind of like the Thomas wooden trains, but that was that. And then one of the funny cars, this one's always fun, the Pete's Place. This is a little light up fish tank car, and as the train goes around, I think there's either a little motor inside or it just spins because of, it spins because of the wheels. There's a little gear, but the fish will move around, and it's supposed to light up inside. So as the car goes around, a little fish. That one's another classic I got young. And yeah, anyways, these are absolute classics. Those are, and then we move to the upper layout. These are iconic. Grampy had these for a really long time. He got these brand new probably. These are one of two sets from the Baltimore and Ohio Bud cars here. So Lionel did a reissue of the Buds in the MPC era. I believe these are 70s, I'm pretty sure. Maybe early 80s or something like that. If we have anyone who lived through the MPC era or just knows better than I do, please comment in the chat if I'm wrong. But he had gotten these, and he got two sets of B&O Bud cars. And kind of like the trolleys, he would run these back and forth, but obviously you can't run these into bumpers because they will just bounce. Or they won't bounce. They'll come off the track because they don't bounce and run back the other way. He would use these for a branch line operation, so from point A to point B and back. But he had two sets of these, and I still love these things. These are so unique, and not too many people have the old NPC. Heck, post-war is even harder to find, but have these Bud cars. And these things are so awesome. They're classics, too, and I love them. I used to thought everyone knew about Bud cars, and I thought every railroad had Bud cars, because since Grampy had it, that means they must be everywhere, but nope. But these things are so, so awesome. Lionel did a great job with these. They're just, man, even for 1970s when tooling wasn't really realistic. What just happened there? Really realistic. But kind of still going off of the toyish look. These still look super cool. I really like them. So Grampy has another set of Buds that I have on the shelf, but those two will be running tonight. And then as we come over to the other end, we got a very unique train. In fact, I think the name of the manufacturer is like Unique Toys or Unique Creations or Unique something. I just remember the name Unique being in it. And this here is a tin plate Rock Island. I'm pretty sure, well, it's obviously an F unit, but it's nothing specific. It's pretty toyish looking, obviously. But this company, Unique Toys. I'm just going to call them Unique Toys for the video. But I know it had Unique somewhere in the name. But they built this here. And their trains, were really cheap, I guess you could say. Like Mark still looked a little more realistic. These guys kind of went like, plastic really early. But this here was one of their early mid-50s toys. And this thing, Grampy always had on a shelf in the basement. And they never ran, but man, did I love them. It's still now. Isn't that an amazing paint scheme? I actually like it more than the actual Rock Island scheme. Because the actual Rock Island scheme, this is really dull, I believe. Or, actually it matches the maroon, but I really like that red, then that maroon, then that yellow, and then the kind of off-white and the silver. This thing is awesome, but he has a pair of these, a dummy down there and this here, and unfortunately, I don't know anyone who works on these. I've always wanted to get these things working again, and I'm sure, if I knew my motors really well, it probably wouldn't be that hard of a fix. In fact, here's one of them, because the thing isn't connected too well. But you can see, you just got your simple motors here and stuff. But I have no clue. Because keep in mind, actually, I have no clue how these things even got traction. I don't think they ever had rollers. I think they just had little tongues. Yeah, these little tiny tongue bits on the bottom here. This is your motor piece. This is likely just an electrical pickup on the back here. But these things, kind of like your older template models, this is how they'd run, and I always wish I could have fixed it up, but I don't know anyone. And there's supposed to be a big glass bulb that just bulges out here to make it look even better, but this is always one of my favorites. And if there is anybody, please, 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 or someone that you know that might be able to fix this, let me know. But I always wanted to get this working. Although I doubt I'd even be able to go over fast track or anything like post-war switches, so it'd be stuck to this layout. But just to see this move again for the first time now in probably 30 years at this thing's ran, because it never ran when I was a kid. But seeing this move, that'd be awesome. Anyways, another special train that not really me, but that Grampy gave to my dad early on was this MPC era GG1 4935. Now, this GG1 has been outside of its box a lot, and it's got a lot of use, and Grampy originally gave it to Dad, and I think Dad even still says that it's his, but Dad, let's be honest now. I'm just gonna say it's my GG1. Dad, I don't think you've ever ran this thing. So, my GG1, this thing has gotten a lot of use. It's been outside its box for a long time now, and I'm sure it needs to be serviced a little bit, but still another classic in the world of arch trains. I got this one early on too, probably, again, mid-2000s, late 2000s is when I got this thing. So, this would be under the tree too, but this one was not run too much. It's been Dad, thank you for limiting my use with it, because this thing is heavy and it's very delicate. And it wouldn't have been too good for young Coy to have been playing with this and then derail it and break off, I don't know, some nice pieces or scratch it or whatever. So whenever this thing didn't get that much runtime, actually, now that I think about it. Whenever we were done with it, back in the box it goes and up on the shelf. Versus the other trains would just stay out, kind of like, some of the other trains here. So this one was always put back in its box, but it gets to breathe now. It's gotten a little better, but now as we continue a little farther, let me move around my tripod here. We got this. This was on Grampy's shelf. This is a real locomotive. I'm sure some of the other ones are too, but this is one of the last New York Central Alco RS3s, I believe, still around, functional. Well, not anymore. It's been out of service for quite a few years now, but New York Central 8223. This was one of the locomotives on Grampy's shelf. I don't know if this one he had any special relationship to or anything, but this locomotive here was always on the shelf, and I always liked this one too. I was just so fascinated by the New York Central paint scheme, but the problem is I had no clue that 8223 was an actual RS3. I'd never ridden the Adirondack Railroad before at Utica, so I didn't know that they had this, and I didn't know that this little thing was real. So around 2019 or so, late 2019, when I put together my first portable O-gauge layout, I was like, oh, I want to make one of the Bat and Kill locomotives, so I took the shell off. And I cut all the wires. So they're still there if I ever wanted to rewire them, but I didn't know, and it only was till later that I found out, no, this is the hard-to-find model, and I just butchered it. So just as a little warning to you train folks, make sure to do some research beforehand before you snip things or whatever, but that's 8223. That's one of Grampy's classics there. And this was the one I was gonna make a Bat and Kill engine, but I didn't. And this one, well, actually, I haven't seen any of these two besides, my layout, but this here is Amtrak 1815 RS3. This would be in kind of like their maintenance of way paint scheme, I think, because, you wouldn't have an RS3 pulling an Amtrak train. These would have done more probably yard work or maintenance of trains work or stuff, but this train I love. This was one I got really young, and man, I just loved that silver. I knew it was already retro, and I called. Remember, the 70s were only like 30 years when I was born. I'm like, oh yeah, it's a little old, but that's an oldie train. That's a throwback train. So that one is a classic. I don't think either of these two RS3s work, and I think something went wrong with the boards. Remember, MPC now, we're starting to get into the board era where the trains aren't just simple motor and, motor to pickup, motor to E unit to, I don't know, whatever. You get the idea. They weren't that simple anymore. MPC was well, this isn't MPC, but that is. But, Lionel started putting the boards in both of these. They just go like this. Like, it's really bumpy. Like, these things roll great, so I know it's not the gears or whatever, or the pickups are fine. Those are all nice and clean, the rollers and stuff, so don't quite know what it is. And this thing was always been fine before I cut before and after I cut the shell off. This has only like been for a year like that, so don't know what it is. Unfortunately, it would be fun to run these double headers. But as we continue on, this here, Grampy loved collecting his commemorative box cars, and this here is a Merry Christmas Lionel box car from 1988. Just one of the many he has. And then we got here 611. You guys have seen 611 several times. This is one on his shelf that I really liked. Along with the General here. These two, Grampy really, really liked and were always on that fancy shelf that Corey was not allowed to touch. But yeah, eventually he gave these both to me, and now they are both a part of the Ars Trains collection, and they're both fan favorites. Although I've never done a video on the General, and the General runs great, actually, so we'll have to do that there. But actually, no, this isn't the General. This is just the Union Pacific General type steam locomotive, 440 Atlantic, but that's about it. But then as we move to the bottom section of the layout here, we got the Blue Comet you guys have seen many a time. But then here we got New York Central FAs. Pretty sure these are the FAs. But these here are the first two locomotives I believe I got outside of Grampy's collection. These are the first locomotives. I was like, okay, Mom, Dad, I think I want to start growing back into the train stuff. Could you guys get me some? So these were them. I think we got the whole set off of eBay for $180, which today is a steal. Whereas back then, I guess that was a little more common. It's crazy how much prices have gone up in just like 5 years or whatever when our trains just started. So yeah, these I got for my birthday in October of 2018, and they're fantastic workers. Loved them, and I always will love them. But they've got a whole bunch of historical cars that mean a lot to me. They've got one of Grampy's post-war red gondolas, the only red gondola. This one is a huge bit of my childhood. This car, I remember having dreams of this red car. So I really like it. And then we got some other bits like, Cotton Belt gondola, because the Cotton Belt would have been right by where he grew up. We got an old Lehigh Valley gondola there. The old Johnny Cash box car from Johnny Cash's railroad tour. I'll move these over a little. That one was on Grampy's fancy shelf, which is the no touch. We got a New York Central cattle car. I remember those ones great. I always liked them. And then a Frisco box car and New York Central caboose. But anyways, I think I will take a swig of water real quick again. And I think we'll get these trains on the move. It's been long enough now by this point. But this tripod is really nice, actually. I can do all sorts of funny stuff with the phone. I can lean it back. I can lean it forwards. I can lean it side to side. So I might use this for the Sunday Runday streams. Well, when we get back to starting those. But are you still alive, everybody? Did I bore you to death? Chat stopped a while ago. I can't blame you. If you're multitasking or whatever, I'm sure I sound great to listen to and totally not annoying at all. But let's see. I can't run the upper loop because all the trains will start derailing and going off because they're all on one track. Watch. Oh, that's a little risky there. Oh, that's funny. I don't think we'll try any more of that. But yeah, it's kind of like Christine, where they all just take off and do their own thing. But yeah, let's start moving these around. So this is a fun sight to see here. Two very historic trains in the world of ours trains meeting. Grampy's first and then our fable. The Blue Comet, which I showed you guys in that picture at the beginning of the stream, was the one that was our collective favorite and that we'd always get out. That was one of the only train sets he had left, like, you know, with the cars and stuff. So that one there was one we'd always get out every time we'd run. And that one was fun too because he'd always box it away when we were finished with it. So it made it even more, oh wow. Hey, it's not a stream without the derailment. That was pretty quick. The FAs went into the other end of the train. As is tradition here on ours trains, derailment pickup. Oh wow, that goes deeper than I thought. Oh jeez. Where even is the caboose? Man, it's deep in there. I can't get it. I don't know, there's somewhere lost in there. Here they come. I don't know why they won't stay coupled. Oh, you know what? You know what shot we gotta do here. An absolute fan favorite. Let me get it ready. Yeah, you guys don't normally see inside the tunnel too much. It's always boarded up. Yeah, I think something's wrong with chat. I haven't seen a single message in like 40 minutes. It just keeps saying, like, I don't know, like some sort of error thing. Not quite error, I don't know. So if anybody is typing, I'm afraid I can't see anything. I don't know if it works or not. I wish I could just put the phone directly on the layout, but I will guarantee you it will fall over and bring the blue comet to the cold floor, which is not what I want tonight. Weird to think of how many memories are currently running around, if you can refer to these trains as that, because it is. Imagine all the times Grampy would run them when I wasn't there. Wonder what he was thinking or whatever, putting them on, or what ones he liked better than others, or if he had any funny stories of them, like, oh yeah, I remember when this one just rammed right through this train or went on the floor. You know, I'll try this out real quick. Don't shock me. Alright. I'm gonna be bullet speed here. Actually, I'm gonna wait for it to come around again. I'm gonna try putting this on the back of the blue comet so you guys can watch the fish go around. Alright. We're pulling some sketchy stuff here right now. Alright, here we go. No, it didn't couple. Quickly, go back. Try again. Alright, take two. Oh, man. What I'm going to have to do is uncouple the Blue Comet's observation coupler, then get it on round 2, and they should hopefully clink. And there's cars exhaust and caboose back there. Alright, here we go. No, come on. This is very hard. Don't do this at home, kids. Alright, we got it. Alright, there we go. This is it. This is my shot. Let's open this back up. I think the fish are going to be swimming in reverse. That's funny. All right, here we go. Yeah. All right, we got it. So watch this. You watch the fish swim backwards because I guess they put the film on wrong. Well, you weren't so... You guys see that? It almost went to sleep with the fishes. Well, I guess I wanted to pick a switch. I guess this car's for slower operation. Good catch. Well, you guys saw the fish were swimming backwards, though, which is pretty funny. So what way does it have to go for them to move forward? That means the car has to go this way. Oh, I had it placed the wrong way. I wonder if that makes any difference. Whatever, I'm not going to try it again. That was a fun... It was great that my heart skipped a beat. I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe not today. Hi, Bob. Unfortunately, chat isn't working, so I can't see all the messages that'll probably be saying Bob. And then an absolute classic here on ours trains. How can we not? I like my wall switch. Wow, look at the yard lights. They're so dim. You wouldn't even know they work. Yeah, we gotta get some more new bulbs for inside all those coaches. They should all be super bright. Interlocking tower looks nice. Although realistically, I mean, most lights wouldn't be on at night, and a train gets everyone to sleep. Yeah, wow, those are so dim. It's actually brighter in the camera than it is in real life. Like, you can barely see anything. We're gonna be making these lights a lot brighter. See, like, these things should be so... You kind of get the idea of the area they will light up. We're just going to be putting in some better lights on top of it. Like, see, it looks so nice, but it's really bad in person. Like, you think, oh, yeah, that's a fine-looking yard light. Because, you know, they aren't that powerful, but I want the lights to at least be as bright as the ones on the street here or something. And the ones back here are barely even on. They're on, but you know, there's like nothing there. Man, those bulbs are really doing express service, but they look so cool in the dark. I think this might be the first night run they've ever gotten. Round and around the room they go. Wherever they stop, no one knows. Well, I do, because it can only be so far. Come on. Don't do it. Ah, peace and quiet. Isn't it so nice? Man, that sucks. I'm not seeing anything anymore. Oh, no, there it is. Oh, man, I missed so many What happened was my iPad, which I was using to view chat here, was like low at 5%, and it was stuck on that screen and didn't refresh. So now I missed everything since I was talking midway about the channel. Oh, man, so many people. Oh, shout out to people who came in. Let's see, Carter was still there, I see at the top. We got Isaiah, Shadow Fan Randall, Charles, we got Train Room Gary, we got, let's see, Nathanator, Shadowfan, Del Hudson, Gus, man, LTR, man, I missed a lot of people. CJ Burnsy. Wow, okay, there was a lot of folks here then tonight. Well, I'm back. I can see chat now again. Isn't that fun? A little too late, huh? But I guess we will wrap it up about there because we've been going on for about 2 hours just about now. So anyways, ladies and gents, boys and girls, everyone and whatever, thank you all for watching tonight's stream. Again, thank you all so much. It's been an honor to be on YouTube for this long with such a great community. I don't know how to describe it. I've been trying to describe it for the past 2 hours, but words can just never amount to everything. It's just you if you know. I guess that type of thing, right? It's like if you got I don't know, something really awesome on your birthday, and words just can't describe such a special gift that is that you guys have given to me to getting us this far, what have you. So thank you all very much. I think at this point we're going to bring back Sunday Run Day pretty much weekly at this point, every Sunday and stuff. Although now that I have the weeks to do whatever, since whenever I'm done with my college work for the week, because summer classes, baby, I'll try to get in a few videos for you guys, or maybe do an occasional stream too. So, I see Carter commented way back on the top. Yes, the caboose has a spot in Leo. Oh, you're right, but what I wanted to do is so bad, but I'm very hesitant on it, is light it up maybe or something, but I hate kind of putting it on the side because, I think it looks nicer moving around. But then again, it's kind of like a little rail park thing, kind of like the Bowling Green rail park too or whatever. But, yeah, it has been one heck of a journey, but we ain't done just quite yet. So, anyways, I guess we'll get heading out. It's been a little while, and I don't want to keep you guys any longer, have you. So, thank you all for swinging by. I can't remember the regular outro that I do, but we'll see you guys again soon, as an absolute promise. I'll try to get a video done this coming weekend. Coming up is the Adirondack Live Steamer Spring Meet, and I got my own locomotive there, which I realized I've never introduced to you guys at all. Ours Trains number 2018. I think I may have showed it once. And if you've been watching other channels like North Country Trains or Millbrook Railroad and stuff like that, they've all shown my little locomotive over there. But I've never done the official release here on the channel, and I got another riding car, so we'll have to show that off there. But anyways, yeah, that was a long stream. It's been, I think we set no, we have not set the record, but I don't get how guys would do a 24-hour. I don't get how I would do a 24-hour. So, although wouldn't that be fun? Maybe we should try it out one time over the summer, right? Ours Trains 24-hour challenge. What do I gain out of it? Experience. I gain out of it, I don't know. I gain out of it appreciation for those who have to do 24-hour streams for fun or what have you. But yeah, I will see you. Oh, Carter, how do you remember this so well off the top of your head? That's nice. I will see you all in the next video, /live stream, / whatever I do. So stay tuned. Bye-bye, and good night, everyone. Thank you. All right, and I will do that. Wow, you guys, now as my finger slowly goes to reach the button to my phone, I can tell you guys that I'm tired and I still have college work to do now.